All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
And I'm Eric.
And today we are going to be discussing the Octopath Traveler prequel that was announced for mobile. We also have an Alliance Alive HD remaster that's going to come to the Switch. There's been a Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm sorry?
No, sorry, I didn't say anything.
Okay. I thought I heard something. Okay, Final Fantasy VII Remake leak. Possible leak. Probably not a leak, but we're going to talk about it. Then Google Game Console. Looks like we're going to have an announcement soon. And we've also got the finalized name for the Xbox One S Digital Edition. And then finally, we're going to wrap things up with a comment from our Discord from Lane, who said, I'd be interested in what your guys' gaming background is. What is your first RPG? What made you get into RPGs? And stuff like that. So this is kind of the areas that we're going to be focused on for this podcast. But before we get into all of that, Eric, is there anything that you've been playing this week that you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, I have. Sorry, I'm sorry, my eyes are down. I'm kind of posting our links, but basically, what I've been playing is Devil May Cry 5, and already beat it.
I've heard some good things about that.
Yeah, it is a good game.
Is it?
It is a very good game. I can already tell you right now, I recommend it, but to get a little more detailed, they released a well, before I get into that, let me try to better word this. Now, Devil May Cry has been a series that's been around since the early 2000s, and it had 4 games up to 2008. But around 2012, 2013, around that time, what they decided to do at first was reboot the series. So they came out with DMC Devil May Cry, which was a full reboot of the series. And it was a very divisive game. Some people liked the game for what it was. A lot of people hated the fact that it completely rebooted a story that kind of didn't need a reboot, since it's still like more of a modern type thing. So Capcom, who has been absolutely awesome lately, like with titles coming out recently, like Monster Hunter World, Resident Evil 7, the RE2 remake.
They've been doing a really good job.
Oh yeah. I mean, I am praising Capcom up and down right now. They've been doing so great. They've been bringing their franchises back in such a great way. But they have these titles, and Devil May Cry 5 is another return to form. It threw away the old the recent reboot, and it brought the story back that people know and love. And if you're someone who likes the lore of Devil May Cry, I don't think there's a strong lore to it, but if you do, they're back. The characters you love are back. Nero's back. Dante's back. A new character called V is added to the roster. And this game is just, if you loved the previous Devil May Cry, this one improves upon it mechanically in so many ways.
I saw IGN gave it a 9.5 out of 10, which I was really surprised. That's really, really good.
Yes, it is very good. I would rank it very highly also. I think one little problem I have, and it's not really a problem, especially since the game has so many other harder modes, is pretty much it's easy on normal mode. Like easy that I would consider like easy mode in previous games. And I 100% get you want to make the game accessible to everyone, but I kind of thought that's what the human mode was, because human mode is easy and Devil Hunter is normal mode. And I mean, this isn't just because I played the previous games. It's like I didn't really feel like I'd struggle. And if I ever did die to a boss fight, I had gold orbs that would instantly revive me. There's a system when you die that you can use gold orbs that you buy or find playing the game, and you can instantly revive yourself with full vitality and continue the boss fight or you can sacrifice a number of red orbs. The problem I have with these is the gold orbs are too aplenty. You get so many, and the red orbs, you get so many of those that you can spend them and just revive yourself back. It's really hard to get a full died a few times
Mm-hmm.
to the very last bosses,
Mm.
which actually were reasonably difficult on normal mode, but had little no problem. And which is comparing this to 3 and to an extent 4, which were significantly harder games on normal mode. So I was kind of baffled by that, but at the same time, it's not really a big deal at the end of the day because there are harder modes. You, of course, have the harder mode, Son of Sparta mode. Then you
Right.
have Heaven or Hell mode, which is an interesting mode that uh, you can kill enemies in one hit, but the Hell part of it is enemies can kill you in one hit.
Oh, so it's, okay. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool. That's a cool way to take care of it.
I don't know if it's in this game, but in previous games there was actually a Hell in Hell mode where enemies were really tough to beat, and but you could only kill them normally, but they could kill
Yeah.
you in one hit.
This I'm honestly, this sounds really, really good, and I have to admit, I'm surprised. I didn't expect it to come out this soon for some reason. I guess I wasn't following it close enough. But the other side of the coin that I'm kind of surprised that this is getting such high ratings is because I remember when we were initially seeing this game announced, there was a fair amount of criticism of the character designs. Like, I guess some people felt like it was a little too Japanese for, some people's taste. And yeah, ever since this game's been out, obviously recently, like I've heard nothing but rave reviews about this. Makes me want to pick it up. Devil May Cry really wasn't my cup of tea back in the day. I know, like, initially it got a really good strong following, but it seemed like it kind of stumbled there for a while. But it seems like you said they're back to the golden era of this franchise. So
Absolutely. And interesting you bring up the anime thing about it is because while I did feel that in 4,
mhm.
most certainly, one thing I'll give credit to the reboot for is they brought a more Western approach to it that made it
Sure.
feel less anime, which I applauded for at least of that, even though it had a, a bad story. But Devil May Cry 5 feels like it kind of meets in the middle. Like Nero is very anime looking in 4, but they
Hmm.
actually made him look a little older and a little tougher in 5. Like if you compare the two pictures, it's really night and day how they look. And I like his new look a lot more.
Hmm.
And Dante, even though Dante looked a little older in 4, they make him look like real middle aged. In this one, I think they struck a pretty good balance in the design of this game.
Yeah, like I was kind of watching the trailer while you were talking about it, and just kind of rewatching the final trailer that was released a couple days ago, and it doesn't seem that bad at all to me. I mean, and having Japanese looking characters and stuff, that I guess I'm just used to it. That's kind of what I grew up with, so it doesn't particularly bother me. But I could see if you're not really into that style of the games, and maybe it might be a little off putting to you. But it looks really, really good. So
Yeah, and the best part is it plays a lot like 3 and 4, which
mhm.
their battle system is really good. Nero plays a lot like he does in the fourth game, and Dante plays a lot like he does in the third and fourth game. Uh,
Interesting.
the cool thing is Dante can switch. Well, this was introduced in 4, but it's better realized here is that he can switch between his 4 stances anytime he wants. In the third game, you had to go to a statue and switch it. This
Hmm.
one, you just press the D-pad and you're automatically in that stance. So, like Swordmaster, Gun,
Hmm.
Slinger, Trickster, and Royal Guard are the 4 forms.
Yeah.
And so Dante stays true, and Nero stays true also. But the difference is he doesn't have his devil arm from 4, so they replace it with a robot arm. And the robot arm not only does mostly what the devil arm did in 4, it has different properties in it now. So you can pick different things, like it can do a mass explosion with enemies around you or a really strong single attack.
So the combat's good though.
the combat's incredible. I mean, this is definitely one of the best action games. I'll go as far to say, and I
Oh boy.
might not get some, I might get some people upset here, but I think the combat in Devil May Cry 5 is better than Kingdom Hearts 3.
I don't think he'll get much crap because I don't know how much overlap there is between the fan base, but that is a bold statement, though.
The combat is just so well thought out, and there's so many ways to play around with combos that like the game encourages you to do combos in different styles because you get higher ranks for doing different types of combos in succession.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I really like. Now, to bring up one more thing,
Sure.
is that the third character, V,
Mm-hmm.
is a unique character in that he actually doesn't directly combat enemies in the game. He has a cane, but what he does is he can summon monsters. He summons like a cat-like creature, and he summons a hawk and a giant golem. And you can utilize the three and have them go fight for you. Of course, you still have to press buttons in succession and to get them to do what you want them to do, but you're in the back row most of the time. And the only time you come close to the enemy is when they're in a weakened state, and you take your cane and you do the finishing blow, which is actually really cool, especially when you have multiple weak enemies. You can keep hitting L1 plus circle to dance around the arena and just start killing everything.
Nice. Well, sounds really, really good. So how long was the runtime for you on this?
About 12 hours. I beat it over a weekend.
Oh, wow. That's kind of short, though, for what, $60?
Devil May Cries are not really known to be long.
I know, but come on, man. It's 2019. I guess to me, that's one criticism. I might wait to get it when it's a little bit cheaper, but...
Maybe, but they're bringing free DLC, the Bloody Palace, which is like a huge gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's you can go back to stages and find hidden collectibles you didn't find.
So there's replay value. Yeah,
there's harder modes. You can I won't spoil anything, but I will say you can get a secret ending by doing it's not really a canon ending. It's just a funny what if ending.
Sure.
That you can do by doing a pretty hard task that's like really hard to do until you get for a normal player to do until they get like more skills and more health to take it on. But there is that. But if you're a Devil May Cry fan, it's got a lot of the standard fare of what's available and what's not. The lasting content of it is something that's more for people who want a real challenge. So if you're someone who wants like a long experience with a game, but doesn't like high difficulty, it may not be exactly what you want till it's cheaper. But I mean, if you're someone who's going to play through it multiple times after beating it, there's a lot to offer there.
Interesting. All right, well, I'm gonna have to keep my eye on it. Keep my eye on the price. I've heard nothing but good things about this game from all the different reviews that I've seen on it. But I don't know, 12 hours is a little short, but like you said, if there's good replay value, I might have to check it out sooner. But I think I'm just going to wait for the price to drop a little bit before I pick it up. But really glad to get your take on it. But this week for me, I have not been playing anything new. I've been playing a lot of the first Suikoden game on the PlayStation Classic. That's not an actual game that came on the Classic. I put it on there because I modded it. But I've been playing that pretty much the whole weekend, pretty much most of the week. I've been trying to do on this playthrough to get all the different characters that you can recruit for your army or whatever. So I've been doing that, and the game is, that game's a relatively short game. It's like a 20 to 25 hour game. But I find like the fact that I'm trying to get like every possible character I can get like along the way, it is taking a little bit longer because certain characters I can't get unless I'm a certain level, or there's a lot of back and forth going on, or you have to talk to certain NPCs multiple times to get characters. And I don't know, this is this is one of those games that I have not played in such a long time that I remember like all the big parts, but I don't remember a lot of the in between. So it kind of feels like a fresh game. but with like kind of like a deja vu moment every now and again. But like I have a lot of criticisms of this game, but for some reason I still like playing it. I don't like I don't know why. There's something about it. I think it's just like I don't know the nostalgia about it for me. It just really hits a spot with me that I enjoy playing it. So that's really been taking up my time this week. Did you ever jump into the first game?
Suikoden.
Yeah,
I played 1 and 2.
I know two's better, but
I didn't hear about great things about 3, 4, and 5, so
yeah,
I kind of
skip
avoided
those.
them at the time, especially since there were so many other PS2 RPGs to play.
Hmm.
So I can't really say if they're good or bad, but I played the first two, and they're really good games. It's really they're really easy games,
Oh yeah,
but they're fun. They're engaging.
you
They keep
know what
you
it is.
interested, so you don't really mind that it's kind of easy.
Yeah, you know what it is? Like I do have some problems with like the way the pacing of the plot or just like some awkward scenes where, like I don't know, it's just awkwardly framed like a character will just walk out of the room or and I'm like that's not that doesn't seem realistic, right? But I think because it is so easy that I'm not finding anything about it cumbersome, but there's enough reward there because I constantly keep finding new characters who are like adding new things onto my castle and stuff like that. I'm only in the first 15 hours of the game or so. Well, with me grinding and stuff, it's probably really the first 6 or 7. So, um, but there's enough reward there that you keep getting that the fact that like the combat and like the difficulty of the dungeons are not particularly crazy, that it's not like really cumbersome for me to like really like quit playing the game. So I don't know. It's good. I'm enjoying it. So we'll see. I plan on finishing this one. I might jump into 2 just to carry it over, but I don't know. I feel like I have some other games that I really need to get into. I still have Vesperia sitting around on my Switch that I need to jump back into. Um, so I definitely want to finish that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I highly recommend Suikoden 1 and 2 to anyone. If you have uh, PS3, Vita, or whatever else, I guess you can play a PS1, PSN game on, then I highly recommend it. Or if you want to go, if you want to go retro, buy the original copies and find the PS1.
Or PS Classic it. Well, I guess you still need the game, so there's that
Yeah,
option.
or do the hat method.
The easy method. Anyways, but with that said, let's go and move on to our first topic. So I was very, very surprised about this, but we have Octopath Traveler. It's a prequel. It's coming to mobile. Initially, when I saw the trailer, I actually thought that they were just porting Octopath Traveler, like the original game, on the Switch to mobile. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, I guess, for people that like can't afford a Switch or don't have a Switch. They can play Octopath Traveler if they wanted to. But this apparently is going to be a prequel that's going to still star 8 new characters, and it's going to be called Champion of the Continent. It's going to take place in the same world, but on the phone. And it's kind of implied that there's going to be like microtransactions and stuff. We don't know exactly where those are going to be at, but it's the same graphical style. It looks like it's basically they took the map that was in Octopath Traveler, they ported it to the phone, and then they drew some new character sprites. I mean, so it's hard for me to tell if this is actually going to be a good game. Personally, I had some, and Eric, I know you're the same way. We had some issues with Octopath Traveler's story and the way the characters interacted. So my hope with this 2D HD art aesthetic that Square has been promoting with this game was that they're going to create a new game and not just try to capitalize on the last one and make a mobile game out of it. But I was talking with Dude Magai on Discord, who said the Japanese Twitter account stated that the team is working on another game in addition to this mobile game. So, it's not like this is their primary focus, but a lot of people are really, really excited to hear more of this. Right now, it's only announced for Japan, but I'm sure it's going to come to North America. I mean, there's absolutely no reason not to, given the popularity of this game over here.
I don't
So,
know. You never know. They just getting mobile games over here is just very questionable. Now, granted, Octopath Traveler is a more popular game, especially in the current day right now. I'm still waiting for that Arc the Lad game for
yeah.
mobile. I haven't forgotten about that, but
Yeah,
apparently Sony has. So
yeah.
that makes me sad a little. I don't know. I would just with the disappointment of Octopath Traveler for me. I mean, it had a lot of positive aspects to it. I love the combat system.
Mhm.
Um, I liked
The
certain
music
characters
was great.
individually. Like Primrose was a great character,
Sure.
but the game had such a disconnect in its story world and interactivity between the 8 characters. I mean, it just it got a little too much for me, especially got to the points where I had to grind a lot. So um
Yeah.
ended up being a disappointment for me, and because I'm not really looking forward to a prequel, especially if they have the same mindset of bringing 8 characters. Like, are the 8 characters going to have a connected story now, or I don't know.
Well,
And
at
it being a free to play game, likely on top of that, it's
yeah.
worrisome.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I was hoping that they would take this 2D art aesthetic, they would take the music, they'd take the great gameplay that was in the first one, and then they would kind of learn from their lesson and make a new game with like a quality story. But I like this doesn't make me feel like they're doing that. This just makes me feel like this just feels like a cash grab. They're using the same exact map. Like nothing's changed. They're just changing the character sprites. And I guess you can now have up to 8 characters in battle. So that might be a little change of pace. But this
But
doesn't seem,
also, I'm sorry, what are you saying?
well, I mean, this doesn't seem like it's really changing the formula at all. And that's kind of disappointing for me because I was hoping that we were going to have a stronger narrative. And I'm kind of confused with what the prequel is actually going to be about because the 8 characters that you controlled in the last game, in the first game, like their stories didn't really cross until I guess like the very end. So like there's not really much for them to do a prequel about unless they're gonna have a prequel on each 8 individual characters, and then that's just gonna be a lot to deal with. So I think really I'm apprehensive about this game. It is free to play, so I guess there's no harm in me downloading it if it does come here.
Yeah, and something to take note also is these are the same people that created Bravely Default,
Oh, so
and they
yeah,
made a
that's a good team.
Bravely mobile game in Japan. We never got it here in America,
Mm,
but they did do it in Japan, and from what I heard from people who played it, it was okay.
yeah,
And it was kind of like a, I don't know, someone have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was kind of prequelish also, but it did heavily um, play off the free to play formula.
hmm
From what I saw, at least. So, possible Octopath may be going through the same type of deal as that. So that's another reason to
sure,
kind of worry about it also. But I don't know. I mean, if you liked Octopath Traveler, this is more to it. So I don't see the harm in that regard. In terms of them saying they're making another type of RPG right now, I think that's the Bravely Third game because they made some
yeah,
hints
that would make
towards
sense.
it a couple months ago. I think we actually
Hmm
talked about it too.
hmm
And I think that's our next game in the lineup is whatever Bravely Third is, if that's
Yeah.
even what it's called.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. I mean, there's I see a lot of people online that are kind of hyping this up like, "Oh, another Octopath Traveler." Oh, just like getting like really hyped up. And when I look at the trailer and I look at everything presented, like I said before, it's the same map, the same graphics. It just feels like a cash grab to me, and it might be a good cash grab, but it doesn't look like there's a lot of effort going into this. It looks like it was green lighted because it would be very easy to do. And that doesn't build confidence with me in this game. So I'm not necessarily trashing it before it comes out because it might end up being a great game, but it doesn't make me excited. Let's put it that way.
Well, you never with mobile, you really got to temper your expectations. But sometimes there are some pleasant surprises that come out. Like another Eden is a fantastic game. Terra Battle is pretty good also. So there's always a possibility they may do a lot of things right enough for me to play it. But like I said, temper those expectations. Don't expect it to be the full fledged RPG that you got on the Switch.
Yeah.
Chances are there may be a lot of things holding it back, like literally, like stamina bars and things like that. That limit how much you can play, or they're going to come in and try to find ways to make you pay for items in the game. I mean,
Yeah.
you just
I mean,
got to see how it plays out first. Square Enix hasn't done much to show me that they know how to work with the free to play form.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that it's, again, the same map, the same graphics, it seems to me like it's just an easy way to make a buck, but we'll have to wait and see. And I know that starting, I think, March 12th or 13th, people can download like a demo for the Japanese version. So I'm sure that this week we'll have somebody that knows Japanese, giving their take on the game on YouTube. So I'm going to look out for that and see if, it's a quality demo, but we'll have to see. Moving on, I was surprised to hear, I don't know why I was surprised, but I was surprised to see the announcement of Alliance Alive coming to the Switch.
Yes.
This was, once I heard that this was happening, I was like, that makes total sense. Like, I don't know why, but like, I didn't know, for some reason, like, it just didn't connect with me that they would do that. But I've only played the game a little bit, mostly because somebody we both know really wanted me to play it. And I was like, I got too many games. I don't want to buy anything else right now. So he actually sent me the file to emulate it on my computer. And I played it for like 2 or 3 hours like that. But emulating 3DS games, it just was not, it didn't work. It didn't work very well for some reason, that particular game. So I stopped playing. But I liked what I played of it. So I'm really excited to play this on the Switch, though, for sure.
It was pretty great from what I played of it. Like, it's kind of your standard JRPG fare, but I like things like the music, the world. The world was interesting. The characters were a lot more engaging than I thought they would. There was a point in the game where I felt kind of turned off. There was like a whole guild system type of things, but from what people told me, they're actually a lot less intrusive, and I kind of stopped playing from there, which was, I think it was about I think, I don't know, somewhere between the 7-10 hour mark of the game, where that's all that stuff starts opening up a lot more. And I kind of hate myself for not going through with it like I should have, but I feel like this Alliance Alive HD, which has been confirmed for the West, it's going to be a global release between Japan and America this fall.
Yeah.
Sorry, the West and Japan. There's more to the West than us, but so I'm going to definitely give it a second chance then. And I think that was actually one of the biggest flaws to Alliance Alive, is that it released on the 3DS when the Switch was booming.
Right.
So it kind of had a missed opportunity. I think this is them noticing that. And I think they're trying it again by porting this over, which I think is a great idea. I think this is an RPG more people need to play and embrace, so we can get more type of old school RPG like this. I know it's more for a niche crowd, but I think that's okay. I think it's okay to go for a niche crowd as long as you build your budget and everything around that.
Sure.
So it's nice to get little games like these once in a while, and Alliance Alive definitely fit the bill for that. So I'm going to definitely give it a second chance when it comes out on the Switch.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a late generation release. It was kind of weird because, like you said, the Switch was already out. So it really didn't do as well as it probably could have. But there was a lot of hype surrounding the game for a couple of weeks after its release, and then it seemed like it kind of died down. But I did hear a couple people say that, they liked it a lot in the beginning, but like maybe halfway through the game, they got a little tired with it. But from what I hear, if you stick with it, it's a really rewarding game. One thing I note about this game I thought was interesting is it had it has the composer from the Final Fantasy 13 series, I believe, or one of the people that worked on that game anyways. But the music in this game actually matches what's going on with the screen from what I watched and played, which is, kind of the problem with 13 is it would have great music, but it would be at very odd times during the game, right? This seemed really well put together. So I thought the soundtrack was really, really good from what I was listening to. So you have some top-notch work on this game for sure.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack is great. I mean, especially when I was on the part of the continent that like always rains, and you go through it, it's got that weird, kind of uncomfortable dread feeling to
Hmm.
it. Like
Yeah,
people are being oppressed. It's always raining. It's nighttime always,
yeah,
pretty much. And like the music really complemented it well because I don't always look for a catchy tune in every single thing or every single theme. I wanted to help um, complement the scene that's going on to help me get into the feeling. And the composer for this game just like really knows how to do that for you. Like I get that dreary, like uncomfortable feeling, and I'm like, yes, this is how I should feel right now.
yeah. I mean, like I said, it's well. Looks like it was well directed, so I'm anxious to check it out for sure. Did we get a release date on that though? Let me see.
Not an exact release date, but it did say fall, so October and November, somewhere around there, probably.
Mm, they're they're really cramming up my fall time schedule here. Obviously, no one in particular, but
If I had to
we're
guess, maybe October, so they don't
mm,
conflict with a lot of big titles
well,
that come out in November.
yeah, because we're gonna have the Dragon Quest 11 coming out to the Switch around that time too. So
Yeah, and
that
famously, a lot of games come out in November for the holidays,
sure they all want to compete. Yeah,
especially with a little title called Pokemon.
I forgot about that one too. So yeah, it's gonna be crazy. So
You
we'll have to
want to
see.
compete with Pokemon.
Yeah, but I'll definitely be picking it up. Um, but yeah, I think that's about all I can say on it because, like I said, I've only played a few hours, but this would be the ideal way to play it. That way I can play it on the big screen television. I can take it with me as I go. It's going to look a little bit better. So yeah, I'm excited. Um, moving on, we have in my opinion, and I think your opinion as well, the fake Final Fantasy VII Remake leak.
Now, I
Not
thought
necessarily.
this one were 100% real. What are you talking about?
Dude, this is like the dumbest leak I've ever seen.
Like, even when I first saw it, the uncovered Final Fantasy 7, without even look, like, I know this is fake. This is text that they've used in other stuff.
Well, okay, yeah, like exactly. So I'm gonna try to pull up. Let me see if I can um pull this up real quick. But essentially, I'll give you the story while I'm pulling this up. Uh, it was there. There's been a lot of speculation surrounding that. People think that Square is going to have a Final Fantasy VII Uncovered event, kind of like they had for 15. And there's been a lot of speculation of when that might be, but nobody from Square has actually like said this is going to happen, right? And so somebody posted on 4chan, or I think originally it was on Reddit. I don't know, but essentially they said that Square accidentally posted a Final Fantasy VII Uncovered uh, deal that was saying April 3rd this event was going to happen, and then they deleted it real quick, right? And like all of a sudden, like everyone's like, "Oh, did you see it? No, I didn't see it. Did you see it? I didn't see it." But this person took a screenshot, and like it looks like a legit screenshot, but like nobody else saw it on Twitter except this one person, right? So I'm gonna try to pull up some of this right here. Oh, this is the Final Fantasy 15 uncovered. I'm showing this on the screen right now. The Final Fantasy 15 uncovered logo from the Final Fantasy 15 event, and then here is the Final Fantasy 7 uncovered event. Like it's clearly like the same font and everything. Like they didn't like they even have the two like side silver bars on the side. Like clearly they just photoshopped this and just stuck it over a Final Fantasy 7 logo. But this got a lot of circulation, and so there's been a lot of people that are saying like, well, maybe April 3rd might be a surprise event on YouTube or something where Square Enix is going to talk about Final Fantasy 7 Remake. And I mean, I'm not saying that Square won't talk about the Final Fantasy 7 Remake this year. I'm actually expecting them to, but the idea that this is like an official thing that was deleted is ridiculous.
Mm, I mean, yeah, it's all obviously fake. And the thing I don't get is that people use like concept art. We've already seen some concept art of FF7, and we already know that they're going to recreate landscapes like Cosmo Canyon and stuff like that eventually. Um, the
Yeah.
one only positive thing I can see from these fakes, and it reminds me of the third Golden Sun game, and that for a long time we didn't hear about anything about a new Golden Sun, and apparently there was one in the works, but someone actually made like a really good looking fake, um, like
And it got
preview,
and it got
preview.
and it got developers' attention.
Yeah, and what it did, it got developers' attentions to let people know that they really want a third game to happen. So eventually, a third game did happen, and so in a way, that's kind of like a kind of a cruddy way to get developers to come out and say something. But I feel like in a way, that's the intent of some of these people who release stuff like this. They know they're going to eventually be found out or something like that. I doubt. I mean, it could be a prank. The whole intent could be the prank, but these artwork pieces that people create are really nice, unless someone stole it from them.
Yeah,
So it could be for a good cause, just to get developers to come out talking about it more.
it's free publicity.
And I believe people in that, yeah, Square Enix is definitely gonna make a big deal about this when they announce it again. They are gonna have probably some uncovered event. They're gonna have like a team of people talk about weird random stuff before they come to it, and
It's
they're gonna show the dial, and it's gonna be like first episode coming such and such, and then a couple of months later, we're gonna have Tetsuya Nomura sitting in a chair, like in on a bench chair, and with a white background, and just be like, "I apologize to say, but FF7 Remake, which was supposed to come out this year, will be delayed for 2 months after they do a big show about it." I feel like it's going to be poetry in a sense that development is going to remind us of FF15's,
yeah.
which again makes me worry about the quality of the remake, but it does have Nomura behind it, so I'll give it. I won't be too harsh on it.
Well, I mean, look, it's got Nomura behind it, and Katase has not been really the greatest source in the last decade, really, for like game quality, right? But he's got a pretty good track record, and from what we've heard, is he's actually really excited to be working on this project. So maybe he's got some of his mojo back. I don't know, but um, while like looking up some of this fake leak stuff, I did run across an interesting couple of quotes from Nomura and Katase and a Famitsu article that said, this is from express.co.uk. It says, in an issue of Famitsu at the end of 2018, FF7 Remake director Tetsuya Nomura and producer Yoshinori Katase were asked about their plans of 2019. Nomura teased that his keyword for 2019 would be 7, while Katase said his buzzword would be long awaited. And then they added, the Final Fantasy VII Remake producer added, development on Final Fantasy VII Remake is progressing smoothly. I'd like to try hard to meet the expectations of fans. So that's like a typical, right there at the end, Square Enix response. But it is kind of telling, I think, that, Nomura's keyword for 2019 is 7 and Katase's buzzword is long awaited. That tells me we're definitely going to hear some more about the game this year. But yeah, I definitely don't see them having a Final Fantasy 15 styled uncovered event in 2019, at least, until, unless we start seeing like a new trailer like every 3 weeks, if information just starts dumping out, like then I might think like, okay, it's probably going to come out this year, or we're going to have a big event where we'll hear more. With 15, we were getting like a trailer like every month, every 2 weeks, or something crazy like that. New images constantly. Like Tabata was coming out and doing all these talks about like everything with the game and what was going on with it. Very transparent. We're not at that stage yet.
Yeah, and before I say something, just shout out to Black Cat Wildcard. Thanks for reminding me about that. I completely
Oh
forgot.
yeah,
Alliance Alive is also coming to PS4 and PC.
thanks
So
for
if you
bringing that
don't
up.
have a Switch or a 3DS, then but you do have a PS4 or PC, then the option will be available to you all. I don't think they're going to be better or worse than the Switch version. My guess is it's probably going to be the same across the board. But anyways, thank you again. Uh,
Yep, thank you.
uh, I mean, if I just want to speak in general with Square Enix, is I have very little faith in their main Final Fantasy team. My expectations from them have been very tempered ever since Final Fantasy 15, 14 1.0, 13 before it being divisive. Um, they've not shown that they are capable of creating a great Final Fantasy or even recreating an already great Final Fantasy because things feel so compromised in their management department with the mainline Final Fantasy in particular, whichever business division is dealing with that. And FF7 R could be the game to prove that, but I have my doubts. And I think Final Fantasy 16 is really the last chance type of deal with me. If they completely screw that up again, then like I won't even. I know this doesn't sound significant, but I won't buy a Final Fantasy on day one. I'll wait. I'll wait and see the
I'll
last
buy it.
field and buy it.
I'll I'll buy it used so they don't get any money. No.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what's going on with them anymore. I hope they get like a Capcom and just cut like a resurgence and just everything they're turning or touching is turning into gold.
You
But
know,
they haven't shown that yet.
this game might actually surprise us though if you think about it, because like there's a lot of just like stuff that leaked into 15 that we didn't want to be there, but the fact that Katase Nomura, like, they put their foot down and they took the game back, and to develop it in house, which was a very gutsy move. It shows they have pride in this game and that they want it to be good. They care about the quality, so it might end up being a good game. It's just
Well,
is it going to live up to nostalgia? Probably
caring
not.
and competence are two things with me. So we'll
Sure.
definitely see. But I agree, Ian. They should give the remake to Capcom. I mean, uh, Nintendo let Capcom make 3 Zelda games. They were Oracle of Ages, Season, and Minish Cap. All 3 were good. So um, I certainly wouldn't mind it. Uh, and really, I would go as far to say is bring in fresh blood or who are passionate about Final Fantasy and are competent directors and producers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of saw Katase say that that's what they're kind of trying to do, is they have a lot of people working on the 7 remake that are fans of the original, but they also wanted to bring in a certain amount, like maybe a third of new blood that aren't really familiar with 7 at all. That way they can bring new ideas, but obviously the majority of the team is Final Fantasy 7 fans. So I don't know. We'll have to see, but this leak is clearly garbage. Does not seem like a leak at all.
Yeah.
Especially since it's the same font from the 15 one.
Like, take anything with a grain of salt unless it has powerful resources behind it.
Yeah.
And or if it comes from Square Enix themselves.
Yep.
Take anything you find out with a grain of salt.
Yep. So there's that. But moving on though, some really interesting news over the past couple of really months, but it's really been kind of building up, and that's related to the Google Game Console. There's not an actual name for it that I'm aware of yet, but this is actually very interesting to me because essentially this. Okay, first off, Google has enough money clearly to be a serious contender in the console business, right? They own YouTube, for example. They obviously own Google, so they can clearly promote the crap out of this stuff easily. But apparently this all started from them trying to create a streaming service like Netflix for games. And they actually did a beta testing of Assassin's Creed Odyssey last year for a couple of months, where they actually let a certain amount of people play that game in Google Chrome, right? And they just streamed it. And from what we've heard from that experience was that a lot of people said it worked a lot better than you think. Like, it worked pretty good. And that's a game where it really matters when you're streaming it to like not have a bunch of lag. I mean, it's an action RPG. You can't press triangle and then have the character move a half a second later. That just would not work. You might be able to get away with like turn-based games and stuff like that, but not a game like that. So apparently it worked really well. But from what I've been reading is they had a little bit of difficulty getting like third-party support, because a lot of developers felt like they weren't sure if, going with an all-digital service was really the way to go, given some people really like hard copy games. So that's why they're also releasing a console too that is going to have hard copy, like you'll be able to play hard copy games on it, from what I'm reading. And the system's actually quite powerful from what I was reading. Like, they're giving the specs on it. It's more powerful than Xbox One X, so that's surprising.
Really? More powerful than that?
Yeah,
it's got to be really expensive then. If it's coming
that's what people are saying. If the console comes out, it's going to be really expensive. But the cool part of that is, if you don't want to buy the console, you can stream the game. And people are talking about, if all you need is Google Chrome on your computer to stream like a high end game like that, that's got to be pretty cool. Or if you can play it on your phone, this might be the big thing. I mean, because think about it, like, you could promote the third party developers, like, hey, we own YouTube. How much promotion do you want? It's like they have enough money to be a serious contender. And I don't know, like, one of the biggest things about it though is obviously they have Ubisoft involved with this, but they also have Sega. Sega is said they're more than just making games for them. They're actually partnering with them to create some they said surprising IPs, some whatever that means. But apparently Google's pretty much like funding some of these projects to create some of these games. And so a lot of people are really like getting amped up about like, what are these games going to be? We don't know. But it's implied that we're going to hear more at GDC this year, which is going to be, I think, March 18th through the 22nd. But I do really want to find out more about this. Because this, honestly, dude, this feels like I want to make fun of it, because like, what's Google going to do? It's like, it's a search engine. But I mean, honestly, they own YouTube. They have their hands in so many different things, and they clearly have enough money to be involved if they want to. And the fact that they can just promote this on Google basically for free and YouTube, like, it just seems like this might be like 5 years from now looking back and say like, remember when we didn't think Google had it and now everyone's on Google, the Google box or whatever it is. I don't know, but they did release they did file a patent for their controller, and some people have made some renders of the controller. And I will say the controller, at least this render that was not made by Google, by the way, but it's made off the basic design that they filed. It doesn't look like a particularly comfortable controller, but again, this isn't Google's 3D render. This is somebody else using the patent as a guide. So it may not look exactly like this, but I don't know. Eric, would you buy a Google console? Or would the streaming games at all interest you?
Maybe. If they present it well enough and it's a good price.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I've always been against the idea of streaming games. Like, I don't feel like it would work very well. But the fact that they've had like pretty good success streaming Assassin's Creed Odyssey tells me that like it's got to be pretty good. And I don't know, like, if I could just download an app on my phone and just play like some high-end game on my phone in like a doctor's office, like, that might work. I don't know how the pricing would work, like, do I just pay for this app on a monthly basis? Do I still have to pay for the games afterwards? Because if that's the case, like, I'm not sure if I'd do that. Like, depends on how much it would be. You know, there's a lot of questions I'd have, but dude, Google definitely has a lot of money, so
Yeah, they certainly do. They well, if it's going to be an all digital console, which it will very likely be, yeah, if I had to guess, and that if they took just like that drive out, unless the only way I see physical is if they want to get into the Blu-ray movie business, but an all digital console would make sense for them, especially if they offer some type of subscription service for everything. If you pay a certain amount a year, you get access to games with like after a specific period of time, stuff like that. I mean, there's a million directions that Google can go with this. If they want to be a direct competitor to Sony and Microsoft, who are already powerhouse competitions between themselves, and Nintendo goes off and does their own thing.
mm-hmm.
Google has to do something that the other two are not. So when the PlayStation 1 first got announced, and people are thinking to themselves, oh, no way, no, Sony could compete with Sega or Nintendo. So what did Sony bring in that Nintendo couldn't? The fact that it brought compact disc-based games. That meant more space, more developers got enticed. They came in on the action, and Sony was able to promote the fact that many companies were jumping ship over to their console to make games, and that
Sure.
got a lot of people excited and coming in. The idea of discs being used to play games was fascinating in itself. It brought something that Nintendo or Sega couldn't. Even when Sega tried to release the Sega Saturn, the Sony still beat it in the fact that it was more conveniently priced. And Google has to do something, not revolutionary, really needed, just something that just says, huh, maybe that would convince me to get a Google. Rather, maybe like exclusive games, or a much more convenient way to play games, or they update a streaming service that's reasonable and better for your wallet. People can jump to it easily, but if not, um, they get end
Yeah.
up on the backside easily.
Yeah. I mean, kind of what you're getting at really is just it's all about the games. And I see some people in the chat saying like the only issue they see is just like the fact that certain areas have bad internet. And I think that's kind of why they're also offering the console for those people that do have that option. I can't imagine a GameStop selling this thing though. I guess they want to make the money, but I guess you could still buy the hard copy games, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, people are talking about having like an app on your phone too, where you could stream these games. So I don't know if like what kind of caliber of internet would you need to be able to play these games.
I think a little more than what you have to do with Netflix, but I've done streaming games before, and it worked well for the most part. And again, I have like one 1 gig up and down on my internet speed, so
yeah. And when they did the testing last year with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, like people like you gotta understand, like all you needed was Google Chrome browser. That's it. Like, and you just opened it and played it in the browser. Like, that's insane. Like that's all you needed. That's crazy. So I don't know. Like, I don't know. I want to know more. I'm definitely interested. And like I said, I think Google has enough money to really make it work. I see Hyun saying if you have 5 to 10 megabytes per second, you're usually good to go. I mean, if that's the case, just about anybody and their mom can can play it in a browser. I guess when I'm looking at this, I look at it like, why now? I mean, Google has had so much money for so long. They could have gotten into the game business a long time ago. If they wanted to get in the streaming business, they could have competed with Netflix easily. They chose not to do that. And here they are now jumping in the game business. And now this tells me that they look at this like it's a blue ocean out there. Like nobody's really in the streaming service in any main way. And they think we're just going to jump in there and take over.
Might be timing. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe that's the mindset they had back then. Like, well, we could make a game console, but what could we bring
that would be
that
different.
would be different? Maybe they've thought of something.
But
It
yeah,
may end up being a good or bad idea, but they thought of something.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to see. This just tells me though that I for some reason I keep going back to the fact that like Google owns YouTube and like for gaming, like that's huge. They just go right to anything that has anything to do with gaming and just start like putting advertisements out for all their games and their service nonstop. Like they can promote the crap out of it for essentially free. So, um, I don't know. This might be a contender. Speaking on streaming games, though, in a previous podcast, we were talking about Xbox coming out with a all streaming, all digital, not streaming, but all digital version of their console. And apparently that's pretty much been confirmed now. It's going to be called the Xbox One S All Digital Edition. We're still waiting on a price point, but that's going to be a thing. It's going to be essentially as strong as an Xbox One S. It's not going to have the disk drive in there. It's going to be cheaper, and they're sticking a toe in the water to see if people are ready to do this. I'm not ready, man. I'm not ready to go all digital. I'm not ready, but
This is obviously a cheaper option, and for people who buy digital normally, so it's definitely not targeting a wide audience with this console. It's definitely targeting a specific group who prefer digital over physical, and doesn't have the money to buy a console like the Xbox One X. But I mean, I can see this being a very good console to get on the casual level.
yeah.
Just like the everyday person buying it is like, well, I just buy Madden or something, once in a
Hmm.
while. Maybe the next really big game, and I'll just download it digitally. It's much easier than just having to go out to a store and buy it. Stuff like that. I mean, the
Do you
Xbox
think?
probably aimed for that. On top of that, it
Yeah,
could be a nice little experiment to see if people are more open to being just digital now. But I think that's a can of worms that Microsoft doesn't want to open again.
yeah.
I think they should really study the demographic before ever deciding to do that again.
Dude, Microsoft is like going all over the board though. Like they have the most like advanced I don't want to say advanced, but I guess that's the correct word here. The most advanced console technically on the market. Then they're going to go to the cheapest console on the market. Then they're also doing like a possible their own streaming type service for the Switch. Like they're literally like all across the board, like anywhere you could possibly be. They're just throwing the dice out there and like seeing what sticks. And I think like whatever like is popular, that's just what you're going to see from Microsoft in the future.
I know this is a random thought, but it just came in my head
Sure.
and it made me happy. Was
Okay.
if the Xbox Live is on going to be on Switch,
Hmm.
that means you can download Rare Replay and play Rare Replay on it, which
That'd
has
be pretty cool.
Banjo Kazooie in it. I could play Banjo Kazooie on the Nintendo console again.
Yeah, you could play a lot of stuff. That'd be pretty cool though. I've thought about that too. It'd be fun to play maybe like Lost Odyssey on the Switch and
That would be cool.
you know, something like that. That could definitely be really, really cool.
But anyways,
I think that the name of it is really long though. Xbox One S All Digital Edition. I guess they really want to make people certain like what it is.
yeah, like I said, I don't think this console is going to be a big
They're,
deal or anything. Like I said, I think it's for a very specific group who want like the cheapest console or all digital. I don't think it's. I don't think Microsoft is even really advertising it a big thing.
yeah.
I think if anything, they want you to buy that Xbox One X. But this is a viable option for.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like if gaming does go this route where like it's basically all digital, that would entirely solve the problem of used games for game developers. Because they get upset that the fact that they can release a $60 game and then somebody will return it next week. I'll buy it for $55, but they don't really get any of that because I didn't buy it new. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine a lot of game developers out there, at least in the AAA industry, really like the idea of an all digital edition console. So, but I don't know. That's all I really have for that. I mean, I know that it's going to be hearing more probably later in the year from what we've seen. It's expected to not release until 2020, but I think you're right. It's just going to be geared towards some of the more casual audience that only plays like 1 or 2 games a year, or maybe if you're extremely, I don't want to say poor, but low on cash.
Nintendo
This might
did
be
a
a good
similar
option.
thing with the Wii. Like you had the original Wii console that was backwards
true.
compatible with GameCube games, then they made a cheaper version, even though the Wii itself was kind of cheap already. But they made a cheaper Wii, and all it could do was play Wii games.
Yeah. So
So
it's not necessarily, we've seen something very similar to this. So
yeah, that's the way I see it.
I don't know. I look at it as the dawn of, you know, a new age is coming. And you know, this is the first shat being heard. So
I don't think digital's going to completely take over till at least after the PS5 and
yeah, I think
PS2.
I think the PS5 will probably be the last gaming console, or that generation anyways, will be the last generation of consoles that are primarily physical based games. I think after that it's just going to go all towards something like Steam, where you just buy the game digitally and download it, and it's no one thinks twice.
I think we might actually get to a point where everything is subscription based. So like if you're sub to PS4 and pay, I don't know, maybe like $100 a year, you
just get the game.
you get the game, or like they find some. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's like they find some kind of system to make a subscription based model work that works for the companies and it works for the user type of deal. I'm not saying that can be fully realized yet, but I'm saying that might be something in the future.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out how you can make that work. I know that Xbox or Microsoft is currently doing that with Xbox with their Game Pass, where you can play a lot of games for free if you just sign up for that. I think it's like over 100 games. But I don't know how to make it work though, because for like something like, let's say, Red Dead Redemption 2, like that game cost a fortune. You know, like, are they going to get like a tiny sliver of the $20 a month that you have to pay, like, for everyone and their mom to play that game? I don't know. I mean, maybe new games will still cost, you know, $60 out the gate for the first 2 years, and then after that, it goes in the Game Pass territory or something like that. I don't know. But
yeah, on top of that, companies like Sony and Microsoft would have more power than those game companies in terms of how they get there, or how they control the revenue of their game.
Sure. So, I mean, whoever figures out the correct formula on
I'm speaking of some utopian future type of borderline type of deal here. So
we all go to the town square and we get free video games.
yeah, the Star Trek type of deal. Money's obsolete. Everyone gets everything free.
Everyone works for free for their own benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, they just work because they like working. But
yeah. And we also live on a starship for 80 years and almost get murdered every other day.
Let's not piss off the Star Trek fans.
Yeah. But anyways, so
brutal.
Well, I don't blame them. And there's plenty to talk about Star Trek anyways. So getting back on topic though, we'll have to wait to see more about this, but just wanted to bring it up that we do have an official name for this console, and that it is happening. It was kind of a rumor before, but now it's all over the place. They are moving forward with this, and we'll have to see how this does, like in terms of sales, because this might be the direction of things to come. So it'll be interesting to see. Lastly, though, we have a question from Discord, in which this came from Lane, who said, I would be interested in what your guys' gaming background is. What was your first RPG? What made you get into RPGs in particular? Was there a time period you were into other games? Fondest gaming memories, etc.? Eric, do you want to start us off?
Sure. My first RPG would have to be, on top of my head, Super Mario RPG for the Super.
That's a very good first RPG.
I was born in 1989, and this game came out I think when I was about 6 years old.
Okay.
And I mean, on the cover, it looks like another Mario game. So I wasn't really expecting a role playing game, but it felt like when I first played it, I was slightly off put for the fact that I I didn't get what I think I was getting. I was like, oh no, is this another Mario's Time Machine or Mario's Missing type of deal? It's like, no, not a third time. You didn't get me a third time, did you? And no, I mean everything seemed simple. It was I was like, oh, so you use A to hit, and you go over to Y. Like my 6-year-old head was slowly comprehending it. It wasn't just like off the top of my head. It was I was slowly comprehending what the game wanted me to do,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of fun doing that. Especially since like Bio Phoenix like saying here also is that Mario RPG was the and still is today one of the best beginner RPGs you
Absolutely.
have. Like if I ever have kids one day and I want to get them to RPGs,
Mhm.
I'm gonna put this game on. I'm gonna have them play this. Like if it could get me into it, it could get other people into RPGs. So
Yeah.
that's the one I remember. Final Fantasy, it was called Final Fantasy 2 at the time, even though it's 4. As another game I played, I think like a year after, and this is around the point where I could comprehend the RPGs a lot more.
Yeah.
And since it was like easy mode, wasn't
Mhm.
too hard. I mean, it did take me a few years to beat that one, but eventually as I got older, it was just easier and easier to comprehend it.
Yeah.
But I think another one that really just like um that it was a great beginner RPG for me was Pokemon Red and Blue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's another great beginner RPG. That's where I started learning more RPG mechanics.
I played the
Um,
crap out of those games.
I think the game that solidified my love for the RPG genre.
I
It
think I
may
already know
sound
it.
typical,
Yeah.
but it was Final Fantasy VII.
For
That
some reason, I thought you were gonna bring up Dragon Quest, but keep going.
no, um, Dragon Quest. Oh, the first Dragon Quest game I played was actually, I believe, was on the Game Boy Color, the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 package.
Mm,
But it was Dragon Quest 3
yeah.
that got me into the series. But
Hmm.
the game that just uh, solidified my love for RPGs was Final Fantasy VII. And it may be a lot of other people's around my age,
Hmm.
but I mean, there was a reason. I mean, it revolutionized RPGs. Like, it wasn't the first RPG, but it's the game that mainstreamed it.
Yeah.
Well, mainstreamed it more than it was
Honestly,
before.
yeah, we're the same age if anyone's wondering. So, um,
I'm 30.
you know, yeah, I'm 32, so we're pretty much probably on the same playing field in terms of with the games that came out. So, same era, anyways. And it's hard for me to know. I see some people saying most people start with Pokemon, not realizing it wasn't an RPG. I don't know if Pokemon came first or Final Fantasy VII came first for RPGs. I had a Nintendo, original Nintendo, when I was real young, and I'd play that with my sister, and we'd play like Mario, and we had the Legend of Zelda and stuff like that. But I mean, as far as like an actual RPG, I do remember my first memories were, I think, Final Fantasy VII for sure. I remember what happened was I had just saved up and I gotten a PlayStation, and I had my allowance. I was saving for a Super Nintendo, but by the time I actually saved up enough allowance money to buy a Super Nintendo, because somebody told me it cost $200. Like by the time I had $200 saved up with my like $5 a week or whatever I got in allowance, like by the time I actually saved up $200 that way, like the Super Nintendo was done, and then the PlayStation was the new thing. So we went to the store. My dad helped me get the remaining amount that needed, and we just got a PlayStation. And I was talking nonstop about the PlayStation. The PlayStation this, the PlayStation that. I had Tekken 2 at the time, and I was playing the crap out of that. And my grandma, she knew I was all about the PlayStation. So for my birthday one year, I think I was like 7 or 8. she bought me a Final Fantasy VII strategy guide, not realizing what it was. She just saw PlayStation on it. It was the Brady Games one. It's all white.
Yeah, I have that over here.
Yeah, so she bought me that, and I unwrapped it, like all excited, and then I was like looking for the game, like what the hell, Grandma? Like, like there's no game, you know? And like my parents felt really bad because she didn't know, so they're like, oh, we'll go and get him the game, like you don't have to worry. And my grandma's like, oh, you can take it back, So, and anyways, so my dad took me down that night to the Toys R Us. I still remember we bought Final Fantasy VII. It was $50. And I took that home, and Jesus Christ, if my grandma would not have done that, I would not be here today, guys. Because that game I got obsessed with. I remember I couldn't beat the first boss because it said attack while the tail is up. It was a typo. So like I was a little kid, I was like 8. I kept attacking when the tail was up, and like, I would just get completely annihilated. And but that's where like RPG started with me, was Final Fantasy VII. And I would play the crap out of that with my friends. Like they'd come over and they're always talking about their Nintendo 64 and like how cool the Nintendo 64 was, but they didn't have Final Fantasy VII. They had nothing to compete with Final Fantasy VII. So that's where it started with me, for sure. I see Dante saying he got Bloody Roar 2 and his grandpa broke it in half. That's mean.
Did you deserve it?
But yeah, I mean, I also played a lot of Pokemon Blue. That's I used to play that in between playing Final Fantasy VII. I probably put thousands of hours into that game, and I got really into Pokemon Crystal as well on the Game Boy. There's some other games on there too. Like I was really into. I didn't know at the time, but the Final Fantasy Legend games, which I found out were Saga games 1, 2, and 3. I really got into those on the Game Boy. Those are kind of like some mobile RPGs I really got into. But I think what really drawed me to RPGs in particular was the fact that like I really like story-driven gaming. I like the strategy that's involved in RPGs, and it was much more immersive for me to like just be like drawn into a world that the game developer built, and to like get sucked into some journey for the next 40 hours. I still liked other types of games. Like, I mean, I was still into Crash Bandicoot and Tony Hawk Pro Skater and stuff like that. But, I liked Age of Empires. I used to play Masters of Orion a lot on my computer. But like getting a good RPG always felt like getting a good novel from the library. Like you could just go to Blockbuster and pick a random game and play it for 5 days and just get immersed in some fantasy world where, like I still remember Final Fantasy Tactics. I rented that from Blockbuster 3 weeks in a row. My mom was, I had to really pull some moves to get my mom to keep letting me check that out over and over again. But,
well, interesting you say that, because what got me like obsessed with video games was Link to the Past, and actually how I got that game was I rented it from a local video store here, and when I played it, I could not stop playing it. And everyone knows it's my favorite game of all time. I could not stop playing it, and every time we went back to the video rental store, I asked my mother, I'm like, can we just rent this again? I haven't beaten it yet. I just want to keep playing. And like, no joke, we rented it 5 times in.
Oh,
and
wow.
The guy, I guess it was the owner of the place, he just straight out said to my mother, be like, ma'am, do you just want the game now? Because you've almost you've almost put enough money of what the game's worth.
Yeah.
And they just gave it to me.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to keep it. I still have it back here.
Yeah.
I have not lost that original copy.
Dude,
it was so great, and I still love playing the hell out of it today. I play it 2-3 times a year still, and I play it on randomizer.
Oh man,
I love doing that. I should stream. That's what I feel like I really want to stream, if I ever do that.
That'd be really cool. That's cool that they do that though. Speaking of just like returning back and forth with games though, at Blockbuster, one thing I did do is the first time I ever played Final Fantasy IV, I played it on the crappy PlayStation disc, where It had like long load times and like slow battles and everything like that. But like,
It did
I
have
don't
the
know.
original difficulty.
Yeah, that's the first time I played the game was on the PlayStation, and I had rented it, and I actually loved that game so much that when it came time to return it, like I was not quite done with the game yet. So I stuck I think I had like a Mission Impossible soundtrack CD or something like that, and I stuck it in the Blockbuster case and then gave it to my mom, and she went didn't know any better and returned it, and I got to like keep the game for like 3 or 4 more days until somebody complained that like, you know, that rented the game, and like, you know, it had a Mission Impossible soundtrack CD in it. And I, you know, of course I just played dumb, like, oh, I didn't know, but I was able to get through the rest of the game. So, but yeah, man, I PlayStation for me was big memories. Eventually, around that time, you know, maybe early teens, I got into emulation and I was able to go back and play a lot of Super Nintendo games. I ended up buying a Super Nintendo at like a retro store when I was like 15, and I bought a bunch of games like Zelda. I can't even talk right now. I bought a bunch of like, I bought Zelda, I bought Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 4. I didn't buy Chrono Trigger because by then it was like outrageously expensive. But by then I pretty much had emulated the crap out of all these games. So, anyways, so it's kind of my background. Were you an N64 guy?
I was both N64 and PlayStation.
So you were one of those odd guys.
Yeah, the have everything master race.
See, like back then, like I was very, very like combative with people. Like when I'd go to school, like they'd be like, I have a Nintendo 64. And I'd be like, I have a PlayStation. And we'd argue back and forth about which console had better graphics and which console had like better games. And I don't know.
I think I got them for like Christmas, but the year I got well, the PlayStation came out for the N64, but I got the PlayStation the year before, then I got the N64 the year after that when it first came out that year.
Mm-hmm.
And the only game I got with it was Mario 64 because I think that was like what that Pilot Wings were the 2 games that first came out. But I think like a few more came out. But the only game I had for a while was Mario 64, which was all you needed, really.
Well, that's a damn good game.
Yeah, that was a big game to take on.
Yeah,
you didn't get bored by it.
Yeah, I think like Nintendo 64 though, like I think it had like a lot better 2-player games than the PlayStation had. If I remember, because
it had better 4-player games.
Well, that's
PlayStation had 2 controller ports, unless you bought that little thing that extended the 4-player, but not many games supported that.
Yeah, I only knew like one person that did that. I think that's a good point. That's probably why, you know, on my block, like everyone would go to my friend's house that had an N64 because, you know, all 4 of us could play.
Mario Kart.
Yep, there you go. So, but I don't know. But that's kind of like my origins and Eric's origins. We could probably talk more about going further into you know, PS2 and you know, everything like that. But we'll probably have to keep that for another podcast episode. But let me see if we had any comments from last week, and then we can kind of top this thing off.
You don't hear about that anyways. I was a cute kid, but I was a crappy teenager.
Oh boy. Oh, we actually did have some comments. Perfect. So let's just get through these here. Let me pull it up on the screen. All right. So, Dude McGuy says, for dormant JRPG franchises, I'd like to see Valkyrie Profile 3 at some point. Valkyrie Profile 2 came out back in 2006, so that means we've been waiting for a console sequel for that franchise nearly as long as the gap between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3. But Valkyrie Profile has never sold that well outside of Japan, but I doubt it's a very big priority. I think there is some mobile gacha VP game out there or something. The other franchise I'd really like to see a return to is the Ogre Battle Tactics Ogre series. From what I understand, back when Matsuno worked at Quest, he planned for at least 7 chapters in the saga, but Quest only created 3 console Ogre games before being acquired by Square Enix in 2002. Square Enix brought back Matsuno briefly in 2010 for the PSP release of Tactics Ogre, but since then, nothing. That's a really good point. Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, you know, technically, I guess that's kind of unfinished. He says now the franchise sits in limbo. The games and the series have been published by Square Enix, Atlas, and Nintendo, so it might be an IP issue. Meanwhile, some of the developers from Quest are still with Square Enix, but the creator, Matsuno, is long gone. What is he doing these days
I
anyways?
wouldn't say long gone, because he got hired recently to do the Final Fantasy 14 crossover, the Evil League.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote and directed content.
Yeah.
I don't think he officially works for Square Enix, but
I think it's contractual basis.
Enough now that he may be willing to do contract work.
Yeah.
Which would be really great to bring Tactics over back. I love each of those games.
Yeah.
Especially the PSP remake that did a lot of cool extra features that were in Final Fantasy Tactics. But and Valkyrie Profile, that is a very I like the first two games, and I thought the DS tactical game was pretty okay. But as much as I like those games, unfortunately, it's a very niche game. Not many people have played it. So it might be a tough sell to get a third game in there.
Yeah.
It's possible,
well, I mean,
and I hope they do something like that. But
I think there's a difference between hoping and wanting for another game and whether or not it could actually happen, right? So I think it would be really cool if we did, though, for sure. Let's go on here to Leanne. She says, you're gonna hate me, Hat. I won't hate you, Leanne, I promise.
I might.
But I don't think so. She says, but I agree with Eric on this one. So
wait, no, I like you.
It says Chrono Trigger was a fun, complete game. It doesn't need any sequels. We've seen several games try to cash in on the nostalgia by imitating Chrono Trigger, and they always fail. I loved I Am Setsuna, but I don't let my love blind me from seeing the critical collective reception. I kind of wrote like a small little response, but I think people, I think y'all are approaching this from like a perspective of, I don't want a sequel or another game in the Chrono Trigger franchise because I just know it would be a bad game. And I think that if Chrono Trigger 3 came out and it was a 9.5 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 game, I highly doubt anybody would be like, no, I don't want it. Like, I think it really comes from people just don't think that Square has it anymore or something like that. And like I don't necessarily want a sequel to the original Chrono Trigger with the same characters. I want a whole new cast of characters, like a different time period with like just like a new exploration of those concepts. And of course, I want the game to be good. Now, whether or not Square can actually do it, I highly doubt it. I think if they did do it, it would be a terrible game. But that's not going to keep me from holding it back. Like, if a game came out and it was good, like, I wouldn't be against it. So that's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. And then finally got BioPhoenix. He says it seems to be more of a Nintendo of America guidelines. He's talking about Mother 3. It seems to be more of a Nintendo of America guidelines problem for games like Mother 3 and many other first-party games. Of course, back in the 80s and early 90s, Nintendo used to do it for third-party, and I'm glad they don't do it anymore, since not only was it costing them money, but it was just unnecessary. But I do hope with the new president, Bowser, he could potentially get some more Japanese games that Nintendo was not huge on bringing over originally. Yeah.
By the way, I saw that Dreamcast guy video of why Mother 3.
What I was telling you about? Yeah.
I have a better idea now.
Yeah.
I do. It's some of the stuff I'm not going to mention it.
Yeah.
I guess some people don't want to. But it's those are tough things to censor. They would either have to censor it greatly, or
then people would just complain.
Or if they release it as it is, then there would be some controversy around that, especially in today's age.
Yeah, it would be really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, with this new President Bowser, kind of heading things up.
Maybe
I don't
King
know.
of the Koopas will be okay with it.
Yeah, I was thinking we'll probably get a lot more Bowser releases. No. No. But anyways, joking aside, I mean, if anyone's not aware, BioPhoenix, he was a guest on our show one time. It was a really good episode. You guys should go check it out. But also, he's got his own YouTube channel, and he reviews like anime, like all sorts of games, a lot of RPGs, and a lot of times he'll do like games that were only released in Japan, and he'll play through like them in Japanese. I don't think he knows Japanese, but he'll do his best to like kind of just get through some of it, or he'll find fan translations of these games. And there's a lot of games out there that when I look at them and I look at like the like gameplay from it, I just like I fall in love with the art style, right? But the thing is that they were never released in the West, and I think there's a lot of games out there that would be classics if they were released, and they just never were. I mean, there's whole freaking like 7 or 8 games, like long series that just were never localized for the West, and we know nothing about them. So, I mean, if we could get some more of these games in the West, that would be awesome for sure.
Yeah, I mean, sounds great. He's played some obscure RPGs I've never heard of. So, you know, it's really cool when to see channels like that. I actually wish more channels would do that. Just dig deep into the really obscure hidden gems type of deal.
Yeah.
A lot of times like the same ones are talked about. We're even guilty of this.
We talk about Final Fantasy all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you mentioned Stella Days, I love it when I hear about games I've like never heard of. I'm like, oh, let me go out and look for this. Let me check on eBay or something like that. I love moments like that. So I'm glad someone like you's doing content like that.
Yeah. So you all should go check out his channel. It's got some good stuff on there. He just got a new mic, by the way, too. So his audio's not that, you know, anything before, but it's sounding pretty on point now. So that's good. But anyways, so I think that wraps us up for this week. If you guys have any comments or questions, you can either go to our Discord server. So there's a link in the description where you can click on that and join our Discord server, converse with us. We're on there every day, and you can ask questions or suggest topics, or if you want to just leave a comment in the YouTube description, we also appreciate that, and we'll read that next week. And of course, please like our videos on YouTube. That helps the circulation. I guess if you dislike it, you can do that too, but we prefer you don't do that. So, but other than that, I guess we'll see you all next week.
All right. Take care.
Take it easy, guys.